Спадар Харутунян, дзякуй вялікі, што вы пагадзіліся адказаць на пытанні радыё «Свабода», як рабілі вашыя папярэднікі, амбасадары і шаржэ дафэр Злучаных Штатаў Амерыкі ў Менску. Скажыце, калі ласка, што вы лічыце сваімі дасягненнямі ў вашай місіі беларускай? Аб чым вы будзеце сумаваць і што вам найбольш спадабалася і ўразіла ў Беларусі?
Валерий, дякую вам за возможность с вами поговорить. Для меня действительно была большая честь иметь эту возможность поработать и в Беларуси, и в благо белорусско-американских отношениях. Я действительно удивлен мужественным белорусским народом. И как они еще продолжают идти по пути демократии, идти в путь светлое будущее. И я очень уверен, что этот день обязательно придет.
А вы особисто часто в Менску бывали этот час?
Well, as you know, the first year of my work as chargé d'affaires of U.S. Embassy Minsk was in Minsk, and it was such an honor to be there and to get to see a bit of the country. But it has been a difficult period. You know, I arrived in Minsk on the same day as the Ryanair flight was forced to land by the authorities. And every day since then, again, the US government has taken a set of principled decisions to continue to say a migrant crisis will not stand, forcing civilian airlines to land will not stand. You cannot continue to facilitate Russia's war in Ukraine. You cannot continue to repress your own population without consequences. And that has been what we have been working towards, primarily because we want the authorities in Minsk to take a different set of actions, to live up to their responsibilities, not only to their citizenry, but also their responsibilities according to what they signed up for at the OSCE, as a founding member of the UN, and in other international fora. These are their responsibilities, their obligations, and we simply are calling on them to live up to those obligations. That despite the fact that we haven't had a functioning embassy in Minsk since February, we have maintained avenues for dialogue with the Belarusian authorities. I have traveled several times to Minsk and had conversations with colleagues at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Our defense attaché has traveled to Minsk to have conversations with the Ministry of Defense. And these conversations are extraordinarily important, particularly at a time when we fundamentally disagree on so many things. We fundamentally believe the elections that happened in August 2020 were fraudulent. They did not represent the will of the Belarusian people. And what we have called on Belarusian authorities since then is to really pave the way for new elections that will be representative of the Belarusian people's will as they go and vote in unfettered elections. And we have called on Belarusian authorities to end the repression of their society that has been ongoing since even before the election in August 2020. And we have called on Belarusian authorities to release all political prisoners. You know, when I started my tenure in May 2023, the number of Belarusian political prisoners was in the hundreds. And now we're talking about 1,500 at least. And that is extraordinary. It is extraordinary that over this period we have only seen the increase of that number and no meaningful avenues to release political prisoners, and that the repression has been ongoing. But we have been forceful and we have been coordinated in our calling for the release of political prisoners with our partners in the European Union, in Canada, in the United Kingdom, and throughout the world.
What international community have to do to help them, to help their families?
One of the greatest honors of my work in the past 2 years has been to meet with former political prisoners and families of political prisoners, and hearing their stories and allowing them the moment to tell their story to somebody who is focused and who really has shown a conviction of the government that stands behind him, to understand what they've been through has been just an enormous honor. And I suppose one thing that we really try to do is, despite the loud number of 1,500 political prisoners, at least 1,500, we want to ensure that each and every one of those people is seen as an individual, because these are stories of parents who have seen their children go to jail at the best years of their life. These are stories of a mother and a father who have suddenly found themselves to be a single parent because their partner is now in detention. These are stories of children who have, in some cases, been deprived of both of their parents, who are in detention, right? And these are stories, and countless of them, right, of private enterprises that have been forced to close, of human rights and ecological organizations that have lost their leadership. These are stories of media outlets, including some of Radio Svoboda's reporters and staff who are in detention for simply doing their work of journalism, of giving people access to information. These are stories of people just simply liking a post on Facebook, or posting a certain flag, or walking down the street wearing a certain set of colors. These are not crimes for which people should spend their time in detention and jail. These are the actions of a society, of a people who believe strongly in a democratic future for their country, who believe strongly in their ability to decide their own fate in the future. And these are a proud people who want to live peacefully in a stable region where they can give their kids a better future than the one that they had. And we fundamentally stand behind them. And I want every single one of those people that I have had the immense privilege to meet to know that the United States sees them, hears them, and supports them.
United States and other Western countries made their sanctions against Lukashenko and regime and economy, Belarus economy, and so on. How do you consider it is effective in maybe in point of view of the war involvement Belarus in the war and about the political prisoners situation?
The sanctions that the United States, in concert with our European partners, the UK, Canada, Japan, Switzerland, the coalition is quite broad, that we have implemented, it has been a set of actions to encourage the Belarusian authorities to make a different set of choices. A different set of choices with regard to putting people in jail for their political convictions, a different set of choices with regard to facilitating Russia's war in Ukraine. And what we have asked them to do is make a different set of choices, and if they do, then we can seriously consider taking those sanctions away. Unfortunately, to this day, we have not seen that happen, right? Repression has only grown, and the facilitation of Russia's war continues. However, what the sanctions have demonstrated is that the global community, the international world, is united in calling out the Belarusian authorities for their actions, and we have shown our conviction to maintain our presence and to maintain our forceful position on these issues, and that we will not forget and that we will not simply allow these things to happen without accountability.
May I ask about Svetlana Tikhanovskaya? She announced in November last year that she is president-elect because the majority of Belarusians voted for her, and does the United States recognize that? How do you cooperate with Mrs. Tikhanovskaya and her office, formally and practically?
I have immense respect for Svetlana Tikhanovskaya and what she has and continues to go through, first and foremost, as a person, as a Belarusian citizen, as a wife, as a mother, forced into exile with her children, and I'm incredibly privileged to have partnered with her and with all other democratic forces, representatives of democratic forces, to continue to work for the benefit of the Belarusian people. She clearly is the leader of the democratic forces, and that's how we see her. She has done an extraordinary job of uniting the democratic forces, expanding the opportunity for participation, and really leading this movement in a very difficult environment, and despite great personal risk to herself and to all of her colleagues. And so one of the ways that we really are looking forward to continuing to partner with Svetlana Tikhanovskaya, but all elements of the Belarusian democratic forces, including political institutions, civil society organizations, independent media outlets, the private sector, first and foremost, cultural organizations, is by the strategic dialogue that Deputy Secretary Sherman announced between the United States and the Belarusian Democratic Forces, which will hopefully happen before the end of 2023. And this will really give us an opportunity to focus our work together and to really set our engagement in a forward-looking, visionary path that can continue to find common understanding and also common solutions to the issue that we face. Again, together, is supporting the Belarusian people in their quest for a democratic future.
And my last question about what kind of support the United States could provide to Belarusian civil society victims of repression, prisoners, independent media. What about strategic dialogue with Democratic Belarus announced by the State Department? Could you explain for our readers, for our viewers?
Sure. Again, the strategic dialogue that Deputy Secretary Sherman announced will be an opportunity for the U.S. State Department, USAID, and other elements of the U.S. government to really, in a structured, focused way, sit down at a table with all elements of the Belarusian democratic movement, really the broadest possible representation from the political institutions to the civil society organizations, independent media, private sector, and together identify ways of how we can continue to support civil society development, how we can continue to support political institution development, how we can continue to support private sector in exile mostly, how we can continue to ensure that independent media, Belarusian independent media, continues to thrive and work and give the Belarusian people access to information. So we're going to together find solutions for how to continue to support the movement, Belarusian democratic movement, and how to continue to live up to the promise of delivering for the Belarusian people in their quest for a democratic future.
Thank you, Mr. Arucюнян, for the interview and all you've done for Belarus-American relations.
Thank you so much for the time, Valery. It's been an honor.
Thank you. Дякую вам велике.
Дякую.